We continue with one of the storylines I thought did not get enough attention last week. It's the latest episode of The Connors, manifesting, marriage testing, and cheeseballs. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my Connors review for season 6, episode 9, Manifesting, Marriage Testing, and Cheeseballs. And we continue with one of the threads in last week's episode I really thought was cut very short. So I'm glad we're diving, head first back into that. But before we move any further, this will be a discussion of the entire episode. It is spoilery, so if you didn't see the episode yet, watch that and then come on back to this video. But if you are new to Dan Reviews It, thank you for finding this video. We do the Connors reviews every single week that there is a new episode. I've been doing this for many years, since the Roseanne season 10 days. And you can check out this season's episodes in playlist form on my homepage if you just want to look at the Connors content. But look, I do a lot of other stuff on this channel, a lot of movie and TV reviews otherwise, and you can check those out on the channel as well. Just about every day I try to post something new. So it's not just Connors content, but think about subscribing, click that like button, and comment below. What did you think of this episode? And I will give my grade for the episode at the end of this video, but let me know in the comments where your grade is for this one. All right, so we have the director here, Robbie Countryman. He has done many Connors episodes. I think he's done at least 1 or 2 already this season. And then the writer, Emily Wilson, that is the first time that an episode has been credited to her for this season, but she is no stranger to the Connors family. She's done many, many other episodes, either with a writing credit or a story by credit or a teleplay by credit, or a co-credit or what have you. And in fact, she did, I think, she co-headlined the story by credit of the season finale of last season. So this is the first time we've seen her this season, but, of course, she's a part of the writer's room, so she's probably got some stuff in the mix there. So, all right, everybody except for Mark from the opening theme is in this episode, and Louise is back, so we love seeing her, but, Darlene, Dan, Becky, Jackie, Harris, and Ben are all in this episode. So, pretty much all in the family, and I think, let's see if I can remember this correctly. I think that is all that is in the episode, right? I believe we don't have any outsiders in this episode. Last week we had many because Dan was focusing on this new idea he had of teaching some handyman stuff to the neighborhood, and word was getting around with that. So we actually had a pretty big cast in last week's episode. But if I'm remembering right, I think this really was quite the bottle episode, as it's called in the industry, where we just have, minimal sets that we've already seen before. Most of this episode takes place either in the Lunchbox or in the Connor house. I think, or Darlene's house. I guess there's a scene or two there too. But in any event, so let's, I guess we'll talk first actually about the Harris storyline, because that is the thing that I thought really got cut short last week, and I spent, a fair amount of my review last week kind of saying that it felt unfinished, and hopefully they go back to this. And it's hard to tell these days if they're going to sort of pick up where we left off, which they did here, or if they're just going to sort of let that thread kind of die out. I was hoping that we would sort of get kind of the resolution to that, and that is the manifesting portion. So, let's just go in the order that it says anyway. So, basically, Harris was tasked or hired by, really, Darlene to help with feeding the cafeteria. Darlene in last week's episode was, given a new position because she was, worried that the kids weren't eating appropriate food, and how can we be better? And so she was given this sort of, promotion, but kind of a backhanded promotion, because if she fails, she's going to lose the job entirely, and then Mark will likely be kicked out of school, because that's how he's getting to go to school for free, basically. So anyway, Harris is tasked with coming up with all of these hamburgers and salads and whatnot. Last week it was hamburgers, coleslaw, and I forget what else. But this week she talked about hamburgers and salads, and she was way over her head at the end of the last episode. And then I thought, boom, we just kind of cut that short. So here we are not actually like the next day, but we are maybe, a week after or something, because Harris apparently has been tasked with this a few times now, and has been able to accomplish it every time, but not alone. Jackie ends up helping her, Becky ends up helping her, what have you. So we see at the beginning of this one that she's once again kind of over her head. She doesn't know what to do, and she's really trying. So Jackie and Becky take it upon themselves to not necessarily have like an intervention with her, but kind of pick her brain about what she thinks is going wrong. And she, Louise makes a crack about her having the hamburgers in one hand and the bong in the other, and she said, "No, I've actually given up smoking my weed to really focus on this task. So it's frustrating. I can't figure out what's going wrong." So of course Becky, psychology student currently, and then Jackie, previous life coach. They've really gotten a lot of mileage, by the way, out of the life coach thing with Jackie. That was something she was doing in the Roseanne season 10 reboot, maybe into the first season of the Conners. I can't remember, but in any event, they've really gotten a lot of mileage over the seasons with that life coach thing. She mentions it all the time, and it is sort of a point of humor for sure, but it is something that she took seriously, just as she did with her truck driving job in the original Roseanne, and her police job and all of this. So two different schools of thought here. Becky has her own interpretation of the psychology of it all, and then Jackie, goes more for the, I don't know, earthy kind of thing. She has a vision board, and she brings that in, and they talk about Jackie's vision board maybe not necessarily coming true. So there were some jokes there. And that's where we get the manifesting word in the title. So Harris is like, "Look, this isn't really working for me, whatever." But we get a little bit into the psychology of what might be going on here with Harris. She says that she sets out to do this task, and she's all gung-ho about it. And then a little bit of the ways through, she sort of develops this defeatist attitude of, "Oh, you know what? I can't do this. I'm going to fail. I'm going to let my mother down. I'm going to let my family down, X, Y, and Z." And I totally get that. Harris is at that age. And look, I'm not sure that in some people that ever goes away. I think we all have self-doubt, at some points in time, but especially, she's in her like young to mid 20s. That is a big time for self-doubt, and what do I want to do with my life, and all of that kind of thing. So I think the writing here was really good for the Harris character. I think it's been getting better over the last couple of years, now that she's into adulthood, and trying to figure out her niche. Where does she fit? She was looking at going, to tattoo school and being a tattoo artist for a little while. And before that, she wanted to be an activist. And now she's sort of been handed the lunchbox, which is something that she wasn't really even sure she wanted, etc. And by the way, I don't know if I've mentioned this on these videos or not, but one of you had mentioned in the comments earlier in the season, when we were talking about Harris getting the lunchbox and sort of taking it over, that we may see the return of Martin Mull. I don't know if I talked about this on a video or not, or if I just have been chatting with you guys in the comments about it, but having Martin Mull return as Leon would be phenomenal. I would love it so much. If I already talked about it, I don't want to belabor the point, but I love him as an actor. Would be so excited to have Leon come back and sort of, not necessarily take over the lunchbox, but I don't know, come back in some capacity, and sort of deal with that. But anyway, so that's kind of the Harris storyline, but I really liked what they did with that. I think like I said, her sort of whole mindset about it seemed very real to me. This did not get the most laughs, I think, for the episode, this plot line, but I think we definitely had a lot to chew on from that last episode that really just seemed to be left on the floor. So I'm so glad that they picked up with it and just ran right away with it. So we didn't have to wait anymore on that storyline. All right, so the marriage testing part and Cheeseballs, it all sort of blends together with Dan and Louise and Ben and Darlene. So basically, the Cheeseballs thing is it's National Cheeseball Day or whatever, which Dan insists is a real thing. It probably is. We have National Food Days for everything. I would have to look up when it is, but what have you. So they start joking about this, big barrel of cheese balls, and they're joking about how it was there when they bought the house. And I was just talking about this. I think it was in the last video of the Connor show about how long, like when did they buy that house? Because obviously they were living there already in 1988 when the show first started of Roseanne. But when did they buy it? I'm sure at some point they said, but I imagined probably like in the early 80s, maybe when Darlene and Becky were like pretty young. DJ wasn't maybe born yet. That's kind of, I don't know what I always thought. Anyway, that's a joke about the cheese balls. But we go back to that sort of in the tag scene as well. Dan sort of whispering sweet nothings to the jar of cheese balls. But Dan and Louise, and this is a little bit of a thread from last week as well. But he was kind of overreaching, overextending himself, what have you, burning the midnight oil. And so he was kind of told to slow down by Louise and hey, like, let's spend more time together. We're in our, golden years here. We are freshly married. I'm off the road now. Let's spend all this time together. And so they decided to do that with a marathon of Yellowstone and its many, many prequels. And that was kind of a running gag through the episode, which I thought was pretty funny. I mean, it's sort of like random, but I don't know. I think the original Roseanne did have a lot of that kind of random and sort of timely humor as well, with some of the pop culture stuff going on. Yellowstone is a huge show right now. It's sort of on hiatus because of Kevin Costner's divorce and all of this stuff. I don't follow the show, but I sort of follow the entertainment news, and I know that. But there's all of these prequels, and they keep going back further and further. So there's like the 1922 or something, which is with Helen Mirren and is it Harrison Ford? I think it is. And then there's another one that goes back even further with Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, I want to say. That's like 1865 or something. So that was a funny sort of through line with that. And they're all dressed in their, cowboy garb and what have you. But so that's sort of the cheeseballs part. But then the marriage testing is about Ben and Darlene. And basically, towards the beginning of the episode, we went, by the way, this first scene was like 5.5 minutes before the credits even rolled. So I thought that was interesting, and it was all just one scene in the living room, just talking back and forth, telling a lot of jokes, a lot of funny parts in that first part. But yeah, a very long intro. But anyway, Ben says that he had this idea to keep the hardware store open an hour later than their biggest competitors, which is, Home Depot, Lowe's. He mentions them by name, the weird handyman aisle of CVS. But that to me means like where I live in Pennsylvania, Home Depot and Lowe's is open till like 9. So is he going to stay open till 10 o'clock or maybe later? And then it's a debate of, well, who's going to run the store? And he said, look, I'm not thinking about Dan. Don't worry, Louise. I'm going to tackle this myself. And then Jackie mentions, Ben and Darlene having marital issues and sex issues, which was hilarious because, bringing that up in front of the whole family. And Darlene's like, well, I guess we know who not to talk to about our troubles here. But in any event, it turns out, Ben is very tired after all of this, so he ends up going out to the Lobo and drinking by himself a couple of nights a week, and that sort of perks everybody's ears up and like, oh, well, is that, how you want to be spending the little time you have together, is allowing him to go drink by himself and whatever while you're here. And so Darlene tries to, seduce him a little bit and say, look, we need to kind of focus on ourselves. And so that's sort of the marriage testing thing. And it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with Dan and Louise, because then Darlene comes over while they're in their Yellowstone outfits and, tries to pick their brains about it. Although Dan is very fake insistent that no, I'm going to stay here with Louise and not help you. You need to be on your own, wink, wink kind of thing. Very, very good physical facial comedy from John Goodman in that scene. We see a lot of physical comedy from people, but, obviously John Goodman is an elder at this point. He's in his 70s. I think he's either 70 or 71. And I guess the character just had their 70th birthday last week. So I think the actor, though, is 71. But anyway, so obviously he's not going to be doing the physical comedy that he would do sometimes in the 90s on the original show. But his facial expressions in this episode were like everything. They were so funny. And listen, I think overall, this is one of the funnier episodes of the season. A lot of laughs from a lot of people. I mean, just about everybody had at least one or two, kind of home run lines, or at least triples. I did notice that, and I've noticed this in previous episodes, and I think it's kind of cute, but maybe a little distracting. But Ben, J.R. Ferguson, tends to laugh a lot as the character Ben. I don't necessarily think it's J.R. Ferguson laughing as a person. I think he's laughing in character as Ben, laughing at what other characters say. And I don't know. I find it kind of endearing. But is it maybe a little distracting? Like, you don't think of sitcoms where a lot of people are sort of laughing at other people's jokes. I mean, I guess, maybe a little bit in Friends, maybe a little bit in Seinfeld, they did that. But I noticed it specifically with his character, and this episode was kind of a standout for that. But I've definitely noticed it before. And sometimes he has a hard time even reading his own lines, because he's just, sort of jovial and laughing about it. But I think it works for the character. Like, that's Ben. So I don't know. I just thought that was something interesting to point out. So, all right, look, that's about what this episode is all about. And I do feel satisfied with the, semi-conclusion of the Harris storyline. I felt so high and dry, at the end of the last episode. I'm so glad, like I've already said, that they kind of launched right into that, in the first few minutes of this one. And that was a huge plot point in this episode. I think we've kind of, bled that one dry for now. I don't know that we need to keep going back to it at this moment. But hey, maybe Leon comes in or something before the end of the season and starts to clean things up or whatever at the Lunchbox. But it got so bad with Harris that she left the oven on while trying to make a grilled cheese after she finished, her mother's assignment. So definitely good to kind of focus on that character and say, hey, what are we doing here? So we're going to do my grade here in a moment, but the MVP of this episode, boy, oh boy, I don't know. I mean, like I said, everybody got a few good jokes, and I believe I'm going to say, and this sometimes happens because she does get involved usually in all of the storylines going on, but I'm going to give it to Laurie Metcalf this week. I think Aunt Jackie had a lot of the really funny lines, and I just love the whole vision board thing. Again, bringing up that she was a life coach and all of this, as she always does. But even in that first scene where she, openly starts talking about Darlene and Ben's sex life, like, that was hilarious. I do want to point out, Becky, we didn't really talk at all on her. She was, well, we did, I guess, with the psychology stuff, but with the Darlene storyline, Becky had a great joke when she overhears something in the next room that Ben and Darlene are saying that's a little bit intimate, and Darlene's like, man, that's great hearing. How did you hear that with your earbud in? And she's like, oh yeah, no, there's nothing happening here. There's nothing playing. I'm able to hear everything that goes on in this house because I'm not actually listening to anything. And I get that at work too, because I'll have an earbud in sometimes at work, or an AirPod or whatever, and like probably a third of the time there's nothing playing in there. I just, have turned it off or whatever so I could hear what's happening. But, I guess people probably assume I'm listening to music or whatever, but sometimes I'm not. But anyway, so I guess I'll give the MVP this week to Laurie Metcalf. for Aunt Jackie. But as the grade on the whole, I thought this was a pretty good one. Definitely very funny. And, I think covering some interesting topics. I will say this is one of the few episodes this season that hasn't really had a deeply emotional scene. Yeah, we tackled a few topics, but, there were no like real heart to hearts. Maybe Darlene coming over to talk to her dad and Louise about things, but that was not necessarily like a really, really emotionally charged scene. But so I will leave this one. Let me get the title in there again: Manifesting, Marriage Testing, and Cheeseballs. I will leave it with a B plus. All right, we've got a few more episodes for the season. I will be back next week with another review, and the episode title has the word campaign in it. So I'm hoping we're going to talk about Louise and her campaign for the school board. That should be exciting. So thank you for watching this video. And like I said, check out my other stuff on the channel here. A lot of TV and movie reviews up. And otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.